Hey everyone, welcome. It's Robin Booth here, Airbnb expert, real estate investor of the year winner, as well as serial entrepreneur. And I'm here to share with you a more investor focused perspective of what's happening out there locally and globally on the Airbnb short-term rental market, and some insights that you can take away and action, which are going to help you increase your profits, save you time, and add to your portfolio. So what's really interesting is we are seeing an increase in occupancy rates. In 2024, we saw an increase across the globe, and especially in South Africa as well, in all platforms, Booking.com, Airbnb and Vrbo, in an increase in occupancy rates. And what's really interesting is short-term rentals have taken over the occupancy rates compared to hotels. So more people are now booking through short-term rentals than through hotels, which is really significant. On average, there's about a 60% occupancy rate, but of course, in my world of Airbnb, anything less than 85 or 90 is not good, and that's just because I have high thresholds, and of course, I have the skills and the knowledge of how to make sure my occupancy rates are high, because a high occupancy rate is definitely going to increase profits, and it's going to generate more reviews, which therefore increase the cycle of me being booked out significantly and making Airbnb work. So first thing we've got is just the occupancy rates. The second thing that's really interesting is something like Booking.com, which is traditionally a very hotel-heavy platform, has reached 33% in short-term rentals, which is really interesting because it means they are diversifying and are pushing globally to capture more of the short-term rental market. What's significantly different between Booking.com and Airbnb is Booking.com is not afraid of the short-term rental restrictions that governments, municipalities and cities may be putting in place globally, because they still have such a base of hotel occupation numbers. So because they've got an inventory of hotel rooms, if the short-term rentals become tricky or fall away, they can still really do well. So they are aggressively broadening out into the short-term rental, but they're not as afraid. They can take higher risks because they know that they still have the inventory of the traditional hotel setting. What's interesting, as we all know, is that Cape Town is one of the best short-term rental performers globally, not just in South Africa, but globally. And we get yields that are between 10 to 15% in Cape Town in a short-term rental, compared to the 4 to 7 of a normal long-term rental lease. In my case, my numbers are a lot higher than that, again, because I see myself in the top 1% of all those Airbnbs that are happening out there. And that is because, next point, Airbnb has shifted from being a side hustle and something on the side to something where the professional investor is seriously taking note and seen as a valuable and viable asset class. And that shift to a professional approach is certainly going to have ramifications for many Airbnb people out there, investors out there, because you're going to need to have incredibly streamlined processes to refine your yields. You're going to optimize your pricing strategies. You're going to have incredibly professional units that are designed, thoughtful in how they're laid out and in the amenities you provide, because the competition is a lot stronger. We know supply has definitely increased over the years, and to differentiate yourself, you're needing more than just a listing on Airbnb. As to the different kinds of investments, what's great is that within the Airbnb market, you can still diversify. You can do the rental arbitrage, which is very useful at the moment, especially with the high interest rates to purchase properties. And of course, with capital outlay, rental arbitrage is when I'm renting from an owner or a landlord, and then I'm subletting on Airbnb, all legal, legit, with the landlord's permission, I might add. But that process can mean that I can actually get into the property market and make that difference between what I'm paying the landlord and what I'm renting it and getting the income from Airbnb. And those yields are significant because it's very little capital outlay. It's literally just rental, and I don't have to therefore spend a lot on purchasing, transfer and furniture, because I can rent a property furnished, which just means that I can quickly expand into a high generating cash flow model through rental arbitrage. So that's very successful at the moment. Many of my clients and students have just focused on that, have amassed 20 to 25 properties, whether it's villas, in Cape Town on Atlantic Seaboard, whether it's apartments in the city center, Durban beachfront, rental arbitrage is a very successful way to get in, to get going, and to scale. And then, of course, the last point that we want to touch base on is travel is back. The demand is so back from the COVID days, and we've seen that globally. We've seen so many countries sharing, not only is it back, but it's actually booming. And I think that is incredibly useful. And what we take note of that is there are a lot of families and groups who would travel and used to book in a hotel. But if you're booking in a hotel, you don't have access to a kitchen, you don't have access to the common spaces for the whole group. So they are increasingly looking for that model on the short-term rental. You know, those big houses where you might have 5 to 6 rooms that can accommodate a large group or a large family, and those are definitely doing very well at the moment. At the same time, what's super interesting is that over 20% of Airbnb bookings are for 28 days or longer, which means there's this digital nomad phase which is happening. And this is where travelers are staying for 1 month or 2 months in a certain place. They're not going to rent out a property for 6 months, but they're also not going to go in a hotel for 1 month. So they're looking for a sweet deal in a short-term rental of 1 month, between 1 and 3 months. And this is a significant target for the South African market to capture the international tourists. So if you're in any of those beach cities, the Durban, the Garden Route, Cape Town, these are really good areas to capture the long-term, short-term rental people, as well as any specific beautiful hub spots, even inland, deep in the mountains and things like that, where we notice that people want to go and spend some time and work from, because that's what they're able to do. So there's just an investor's perspective. It's always great to share these insights. You can see the rest of the article in the magazine. And as always, it's great to see this growth of Airbnb and short-term rentals and how it has changed the investing paradigm globally and worldwide, and is certainly something that is a priority in my portfolio and is definitely with all the clients that I share information from. Always, we'll see you on the other side.